What's up, everybody? It's Roger and James here from the DisKingdom Podcast. It's Tuesday. It's time to look back at the comics from the past week. So we're just going to pick 3 different comic books that we've read this week to kind of go through. I know it includes things like the new Darth Vader one. We've also got the Avengers and a few other ones. So I'm going to kick things off first off with Amazing Spider-Man number 9, which was kind of pretty cool in some ways because there was just kind of lots of things. One of the cool things that they had with it, they've got this like group that Jarvis has put together of all the friends and family and loved ones of the superheroes. They've all got a little like AA group where they can go and talk to each other, but the special technology which blanks their faces out, so you can't see who they are. They can all have a nominate because Jarvis felt that that everyone needed a little bit of talking about, this kind of. And I thought that was a really cool way of doing it, rather focusing on like Mary Jane needing help with dealing with being Spider-Man's like loved one. They also had a side story. The main story really was about Black Cat and Spider-Man teaming up to steal back all the Avengers props and stuff that's been stolen by a new villain. I've been really liking this run of the Spider-Man series, but I just thought that was a really cool little take.
That sounds like a less dark version of DC's current comic, Heroes in Crisis, which is basically all your heroes have PTSD. And but this sounds like a much lighter take on that, which I think is better because when you try to bring in serious real world issues, it doesn't always go over so well in comics, and I think that's a problem that they have. So I don't know. And then Spidey and Black Cat. I mean, where else have we talked about Spidey and Black Cat lately? It's a nice little subtle tie-in there. I like that.
There was a nice little thing as well of apparently when Spider-Man and Peter Parker got split up, Spider-Man went to her and tried hooking up with her, and she kind of got rid of it because they got split up into different personalities. And I thought that was quite cool. That was a nice little nod to the last storyline as well. And like Peter Parker being like, we didn't hook up, did we? And she goes, no, why are you so repulsed? I was like, oh, I thought it was just a really good little storyline. And I think again, Black Cat and Spider-Man always have that kind of cool little different. It's always I always think it's better than Batman and Catwoman. That kind of is a better version.
It's definitely a different version. I will give it that, and I kind of prefer it because it does kind of have the will they, won't they, but it always leans towards won't they, or they won't because neither of them really wants to go in that direction. They have before, but I prefer it kind of just as casual flirting / joking, whereas Catwoman and Batman has always been kind of like, we're in love, but we're on opposite sides of the law. We can't have this forbidden love. And it's like, all right, guys, enough of the Romeo and Juliet routine. You've been doing it for 70 years now. Come on.
Okay, so what was one of your picks this week?
I'm gonna pick. Let's see, Doctor. No, actually, I'm gonna go with Black Order, which is a very odd comic to do. To even exist, to be honest. So Black Order, of course, were the Thanos villain henchmen from the movie Avengers Infinity War. They existed before that during Jonathan Hickman's Avengers run several years ago. And ever since Infinity, which was the crossover that kind of ended the Thanos story during the Hickman run, they've just kind of been aimless. We saw them again in Avengers No Surrender. You and I talked about that a couple of times, and they've just kind of been aimless doing stuff, and that's kind of the theme of the comic is they don't really have a purpose. It's mostly Corvus Glaive like having a midlife crisis or something, which is not the direction I would have expected the book to go in. Not really sure what to make of it. It's not bad, but I'm still kind of waiting for a, why does this book exist moment. It's okay. It's got some funny moments. They're villains, so it's still very dark, very violent. They go around and kill a lot of people. As with most villain books, they are fighting villains who are worse than themselves. So it's pretty dark. There's some funny bits. It's enjoyable enough. It's not something I'd say people need to go out and read, but if you are looking for something that kind of a little bit ties into Avengers Infinity War, it's better than Infinity Wars 2, which is the other major comic series going on. It's middle of the road, but entertaining enough that if you're looking for something to read, go ahead. You should enjoy it.
Okay, I'm going to flip now over to the other one I read this week was the Darth Vader. I can't think, it was number 24, I think it was. 26.
Look up the actual number.
Which is all about building
23.
His castle. It's this continuous thing of building this castle and this helmet that brings power, and it was really odd. It like puts on top of a stormtrooper, and suddenly all the stormtroopers are paying attention to it, and they keep building the castle, and it keeps being destroyed, keeps building it, keeps being destroyed, and then he destroys it at the end anyway. It was like, and then he comes out, and like it's almost like he's been released.
Just to be clear, at this point, we're not talking about Darth Vader. We're talking about Momin or whatever his name is. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it was. It just guess storyline's been really weird. I know Disney. It's like they were destroying castles and building them so quickly.
Well, I think it was supposed to be a time lapse. It's supposed to have been something that happened over maybe a couple of weeks or months or something like that. But it had some nice little humor moments where, you were talking about he takes the mask off of the person, he would kill the person, and then he would put the mask on another person, and Momin would possess that one, and then the castle wouldn't work because they're trying to open a portal to something. That part's a little ambiguous right now. But it would keep failing, so he would kill the host body and attach it to a new host body. It was kind of amusing seeing a different person in each of the castle scenes. But there's a whole sense of like, what is the point of this story? I get it from a certain point of view that, as we've talked about in the past, Disney or Lucasfilms really wants this castle to have a story.
Yeah.
That they want it to have some significance other than being dark and creepy and foreboding. But at this point, between this and Tales from Vader's Castle and the canceled Vader miniseries that was supposed to come out next year, I'm just like, you better have a really good payoff for why you're spending so much time on this stupid castle.
Yeah.
I mean, are we going to find out maybe like in 2023 that Cinderella's castle in Disney World is going to become the Mustafar castle? Because that'd be a hell of a twist.
Yeah. I mean, the Disneyland castle could do with an update.
Really could.
I mean, it'll create a lot of social storm, get some publicity, but it
might get some lava flowing through the streets of Anaheim. I don't know.
That should have been the head centerpiece for the Hollywood studios.
There we go.
It's kind of interesting. I don't know where it's going, but it was okay. So, what was your second pick?
I will stick with Star Wars, and we'll do Dr. Aphra. This was the other Star Wars book that came out this week. It's the start of a new storyline where Dr. Aphra is forced to stay near her former murderous robot friend, 000, and it's mostly narrated by Dr. Ezavon, who was the guy in A New Hope who taps Luke on the shoulder and like got the death mark in 13 systems or whatever it is, and had a cameo in Rogue One. It's a really odd issue, and I know Dr. Aphra's, that's generally been an underlying theme, and so it's very odd. I did enjoy it, and I actually had a lot of fun with it. It seems more like it's supposed to be a jumping on point issue for people, where it kind of summarizes what's happened in the last, 10 issues or so. But it also kind of felt like, let's move on with the plot here a little bit. So, it's actually a solid issue. But even though it is an introductory issue, if you haven't been reading, you need to start from the beginning, because this series does not make sense if you haven't been reading it all along.
No, that's why I've been skipping it.
I figured, yes.
Yeah. So my last book was the Avengers. It was like the 700th episode. It's a big bumper edition. Kind of had basically the Avengers fighting off against Namor and his group, and then we brought in the Russian Avengers as well, and all hell was breaking loose. Lots of stuff. And then there was this weird subplot at the back with Logan being the Phoenix that had awful artwork that I couldn't stand. It was like a tale of two books. I really enjoyed the first half. The second bit, the art got so fuzzy, I just didn't like it. It was a really odd book for that one.
Yeah, I read this one too. I had thought I probably wasn't going to, but then, it's the super anniversary nonsense issue. So this will be an odd takeaway, but the one thing I was happy with, they did specify that Stingray survived last issue. If people have been listening to the podcast, they know that I took quite a bit of issue. I don't even care about the character. I just was like, don't kill characters just to prove the threat is real. So no, he survived. So I'll cut them a little slack on that and kind of retract that a bit. That said, the whole Namor storyline just isn't all that interesting. It feels like they're trying to go, oh, there's an Aquaman movie. Let's try to undercut the Aquaman movie by having our own Aquaman war. And it's like, no one cares about Namor. You don't even have Namor in any of the movies. No one cares about him at all. They'd much rather go see Jason Momoa. He at least is a good-looking man, so they've got that going for him. Namor's just a jerk, to be honest. But having said that, it was kind of fun seeing the narration from the Russian side. Like Ursa Major at the beginning, just being all grumpy and cynical, and hearing the rest of the team just complaining about their work conditions is like, oh, we've got two gods on our team. It's like, that's not a good idea, especially because they're from different mythologies. And yeah, it was just fun. I'm not going to comment on the Wolverine one. I think my thoughts are about the same as yours. Them turning Wolverine into like some cosmic celestial negotiator or something, it's just like, do you understand this character at all? Do you know why people like Wolverine? That was my entire thought about the backup strip. It's like, Wolverine should not be interacting with Celestials. There's no reason for this.
No, it was a little odd. This whole Avengers reboot since No Surrender, I've been a bit iffy. I thought the artwork was better in the main. Since they've gone over to the Namor story, it's been better. But yeah, it's getting a bit better each week, each month that this book comes out. So what's your final book for the week?
Let me double check here. Final book of the week is Uncanny X-Men #1. So this is the reboot. This is the start of the new X-Men initiative. All the other books, except for like one or two, are being canceled and rebooted, and we're leading into the Age of X-Men. And oh, whoops! By the way, Extermination isn't actually done yet, so that'll still be finishing. But you know what? So to clarify, and I'm pretty sure you read this as well.
Yeah.
So you know this, but for people at home, there was, like the Avengers, a main story, and then there was a backup story, but the backup story was split into 3, so with each section kind of focusing on a different part of it, and then them all coming together at the end. So just focusing on that first story, the main one, definitely was interesting, and I have to say I did not see that ending coming. The final panel, which we won't spoil because it is a very big cliffhanger ending. Didn't see that coming, but I'm kind of liking the direction they're going at the moment.
Yeah, it was it felt like an X-Men kind of book where you had, that whole thing of the X-Men trying to protect the government, but the government made the bad publicity and all the rest of it, and Multiple Man just being a pain. It was okay. I like X-Men where they keep it simple. There's too many people, too many players involved. They need to like, you flip it open and there's a page of characters. It's like too many. Cut it back, make it simpler, make it smaller. I know it's this special reboot, but that's my one issue with X-Men books of having too many characters.
Yeah, and I think that was just because it was the first issue. I suspect that they will pare it down to a much more manageable group in the next several issues. Also, just like Avengers No Surrender, this is going to be a weekly book, so they will be able to get by on momentum, and hopefully, even with that, though, they'll have less characters, or they'll have a more focused group of characters. We can kind of guess what those groups will be based on the books that are going to spin out of this, at least from the February solicitations. But yeah, overall, the main story, definitely enjoyed it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing where this book is going. it's been a little while since I've been this excited about the core X-Men books. I've mostly been the side books like All New Wolverine and X-Men Red and X-23 and stuff like that. But this is the core. It's got some very good writers on it, and they seem to be working well together. So we'll see where it goes. But just like Avengers, I'm not really going to talk about the backup strip because it's on a whole different level of quality and not, in the good direction.
This is where I'm actually going to be like, I'm actually sitting there going, I don't even remember this. What was it? I can't even remember what it was.
So one of it was, see, that's the problem. I can barely remember most of it too. It had some of the kids, some of the new X-Men floating around. They were trying to prove that they were useful or something like that, but then they, got ambushed and all that fun stuff.
Oh,
honestly,
yeah. I didn't even remember that from the book. That was how.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's just completely forgettable, and thus far, at least, wholly unnecessary. I don't know if these backup strips are going to continue as the series goes on, but
yeah,
they need a hook because honestly, both of us are kind of drawing a blank on the details of what happened. So
the only bit I recognized was the fact that Polaris was in it because I know her from the gift, and that was basically it. Because I've never seen her in a comic book before. That's how I don't, because I don't really read the X because it's so complicated all the time. It's
right.
Too many. I will keep going with this because I like the one. If I can keep up with one series regularly without, when they went into all the different groups, it was too much. So I'm hoping with this, I'll keep it going for a bit, seeing how we get on. But overall, I was a little bit like, yeah, it's okay. I wasn't.
Yeah.
With it.
So main story, good. Backup story, blah. I will throw out there, anybody who's interested in the craft of comics, of how comics are put together, there is a director's cut version of Uncanny X-Men #1. I can't remember the price point. It's definitely more expensive than the one you're used to. But it has the backup, which includes the scripts written by the writers. And it's, as near as I can tell, mostly unedited, mostly unredacted, stuff like that. So if you want to see a comic script with the comic that it's within, it's a great resource for anybody who's interested in that.
Cool idea. But let us know in the comments below what book you've been reading this week. Let us know what you guys are thinking. Remember to go check us out over at DisKingdom.com. James, where can they find you?
You find me heroiclegacy.com.
And on that note, guys, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back soon. Later.